there has to be a multi-level discussion that speaks to people in the places at which they are, not at the places that we wish they could be. And what I mean by that is that each and every community that we talk about has its own kind of specificities. It has its own kind of class structures. It has its own kinds of class affinities. It has its own kinds of class aspirations. Each one has come through a different period. So the question is, how do we speak to people where they are located at so that we can speak to the kind of Blackness that they perform, right? Because simply because you live in a gated community, it doesn't mean you're not performing Blackness. Now, we need to talk to you about what responsible performance looks like in that gated community, but that's a different discourse than talking about someone who lives in a community of Black people who have a tremendous amount of political and economic power. That's a different conversation than talking about somebody who lives in Minneapolis or, God forbid, Oshkosh, Wisconsin, right? Where Black people are, for the most part, just trying to make it and survive. And so part of what I think our challenge becomes is, how do we speak to the Blackness that people are performing in the place that they are performing it in ways that, number one, we can call forth responsibility, but number two, we can be able to materially talk about this is what responsibility looks like. If you're a Trinity United Church of Christ, responsibility looks different than it does if you're Quinn Chapel. If you are Quinn Chapel, responsibility looks different than it does if you're talking about the storefront church that opened up 10 years ago and has 20 members but feeds 200, right? So I think a part of what our deep challenge is, and I think this is a part of our work, is we can have all of these tools and we have to refine the tools, but if we don't communicate them to the way that people are performing their Blackness and their humanity, we will talk right past it. And what we'll find is we'll be calling for an aspiration of what we think they ought to be, and not recognizing and leveraging who they are.